Monday morning, my best friend Diego came by with his 10-year-old beat-up van, and we hauled my stuff from my apartment to his parents' garage. While we were doing that, I told him all about my parents' latest complaints. They weren't happy I had dropped out of college, and that I wasn't renewing the lease on my apartment. They called me a homeless dropout. Diego quietly said, "My parents wished me good luck and said you owe them an out to dinner when we get back." We had timed this perfectly. My lease ran out later this week, so I would stay with Diego and his parents for a couple of days. When Tuesday came, we had our final practice session. Garrett and Miss Trudy confirmed all the dates for the tour, and once we finished the practice, we packed everything into Diego's van. Every time we did this, I never thought the amps, the guitars, the drums, the keyboards, the miles of chords, the microphones, and the speakers would all fit. But somehow it does. 3 people ride in the van, and Mac rides with Garrett. All our suitcases are crammed into the back of Garrett's car too. Let me introduce myself. I'm Walter Sinaloa. Sinaloa to my friends, or Sin to my best friends. Don't you love the sound of my name? It just flows from one syllable to another. The only people who call me Walter are my parents. Ugh. I've dyed my hair turquoise. Always have a couple of sterling silver hoops in my ears, but my eyes and eyebrows are a generic brown. They are my boring features. Same with the trimmed soul patch under my lip that Diego says makes me look exotic, but I don't think it does. The main thing my parents hate about me, one of many things actually, is the small piercing in my left nostril with a small sterling silver stud. It's tidy, looks fine, but Mom always says, "How do you expect to get a real job that pays real money with that thing in?" And Pop yells, "Doesn't anybody care about their appearance anymore? You won't get any dates." Mom's biggest gripe? What would the neighbors think? What would my parents think if they saw my other piercings? I don't understand their problem. I've been working since I graduated high school and nobody cares about piercings. I also haven't had a problem getting dates. My piercings are important. They're me. The way I look sings to me. Mom and Pop always nag me about my clothes. I always wear an old red plaid long coat that Ralphie made for me, slashed jeans, a t-shirt with something written on it. My current one is black and says Sex Pistols in bright red letters. They were a punk group more than 20 years before I was born. I sport a faux red leather newsboy flat hat that Grandpa used to wear back when he was my age, and Grandma says it makes me look like a dashing young man. When I told Diego, he said, "That's not fair. I want to be dashing too." Telling me my clothes suck is the third most common thing my parents give me grief about. The second is that my parents violently disapprove of my chosen career path. 2 years ago, I was one of the founding members of a band. "You need to do something with your life, not play around," Pop said. "What if our neighbors found out?" Mom said. "You call what you play music? It sounds like you're ripping the innards out of a grand piano," Pop always yelled. After several attempts at a name, we finally settled on the Jumping Pyros. We've made a bunch of songs, made covers for some classic songs, put together a few videos that we uploaded to YouTube, even been in the university's Battle of the Bands, and now we have a following. A small following, but loyal. The most popular thing my parents love to yell at me about is being gay. I sometimes wished I'd never told them. It doesn't take much for them to start screaming. "I'm a disappointment. How can I carry on the family line? What will the neighbors say? Is that why I dress weird? Is that why I hang out with such strange people? Yada, yada, yada. Why can't Mom and Pop grow up already?" Through Nathaniel's electronic wizardry, we have our own YouTube channel, an album in the works, and the guys have become my true family. I'm the drummer as well as the singer. I also have the worst family problems of all of us. But enough about me. My best friend, Diego de la Rosa, formerly Martin Dester, owns the van we use to haul our equipment. His sister knows a thing or two about painting, and she painted Jumping Pyros on the side of the van. Diego lives at home, but his parents don't mind us using their 3-car garage. I've never heard anyone sing like Diego can. His great-grandparents on his pop's side of the family are from Spain, and his mom, Miss Trudy, is from Tennessee and can cook restaurant-style good. He usually wore skinny black suits with black skinny ties and hair slicked back even when we weren't on stage. I don't think I've ever seen him sweat. Mom and Pop don't like him because he inherited his mom's southern feistiness and his dad's good looks. Nathaniel Grayson plays an electric bass guitar. Of all of us, he's the most normal looking and the cutest. He doesn't have any tats and no piercings. He also gets the most fan mail. Button-down black shirts, black slacks, and styled hair. He comes from a one-parent family. His mom died when he was 3, and his long-distance truck-driving pop never remarried. Nathaniel flies through relationships. He might be fray as well as bi. A long-term romance for him is something that lasts a month. He's also magic on the guitar and is in charge of the band's YouTube channel and our website. Mom and Pop don't like him because he is amazing on the computer. Ralphie Sorensen is our keyboardist and lead singer. Ralphie is a guy who is often confused for a girl, but he has the looks and voice that make him andro. He also wears black, but his clothes are more flowing than the rest of ours. In a word, he is hauntingly beautiful. He came from an alcoholic home. His mom was drunk most of the time, and when it got bad, he crashed with Diego or Mac for several months. You'd think his folks would split up with all the fighting they do, but his pop keeps forgiving his mom. Ralphie also sews and makes his own clothes. He's also made a few things for the band, like my plaid coat. When we stay in one place, he studies to be a fashion designer. Mom and Pop definitely don't like him. He sews better, more stylish clothes than the clothes Mom buys. Makoto, Mac Park, our shy guitarist, is fluent in both Japanese and Korean. His pop is Japanese and his mom is Korean. Mac usually plays acoustic guitar, though he is also good with electric. He is our songwriter and a really good tenor. We do a lot of stuff in Korean because Mac loves K-pop. His mom can be a little overbearing, especially if someone gives anybody in the band a hard time, but she usually doesn't give us a hard time. As long as we tell her we like her food, she's all smiles. She is a good cook, but sometimes forget that we have normal taste buds. She can make her food really spicy, as in spicy enough to clean oil stains off of concrete. She loves Garrett because he loves spicy food. Garrett has the constitution of a thermonuclear reactor. Mac's folks don't like to say anything, but in the early days, they helped bankroll the Jumping Pyros. I think it's because Mac has a hard time making friends, and we get him out of his shell. His folks like that. Mom and Pop don't like Mac either, or his parents. Mac and his folks have a lot more money than my mom and Pop. What is my parents' problem? We also have someone acting as roadie and manager and all-around equipment hauler. Mac's new husband, Garrett Park. He used to work at a movie theater, but his life has evolved. Or has it devolved since he's helping us with all the heavy lifting for little more than free meals. He also owns a car and drives us around. Mom and Pop don't like him as well. Garrett keeps in shape. Even has a six-pack. I think Pop is jealous. I know I am, because I don't have one. What do you know? Mom and Pop don't like any of my friends. Miss Trudy Dester is our agent, and she works out of Vegas. She's also Diego's mom, and is kind of the band mom by association. She got fed up with this system, and is on a personal quest to help people like us have a chance in the world. She's also a little overprotective of Diego. Mom and Pop don't like her because she has the lungs of an irate, constipated moose and temper to match. She's the only person who can get louder than Mac's mom. You should have heard Miss Trudy yell at my folks because we wanted to rehearse at my house one weekend because Mac's folks needed to use the garage to store his aunt's car while she went on vacation. And Mom's answer? What would the neighbors think of all these weird people? Weird? Us? We're proud of it. One reason we all get along, me, Mac, and Garrett are gay. Nathaniel is bi, and Diego is pan. Ralphie likes guys, but doesn't date, and doesn't like talking about sex, so we think he's either demi-gay, or ace with gay preferences, or gay with serious trust issues. Since he's never dated, Only hung out with the guys. We suspect he's a virgin. He is always reading gay romance novels, so definitely not Arrow. We figure he needs a little space until he figures himself out. Except for Garrett, the rest of us met in college, at an LGBTQ mixer. That's another story. The reason I canceled my apartment and put my stuff in Diego's parents' garage? Over the next few months, we are going on tour. 25 concerts throughout Nevada and Utah and a couple in Arizona. Miss Trudy and Garrett spent days lining them up. We are putting a ton of miles on Diego's van and Garrett's car, but getting our name out there is worth it. Besides, who doesn't like a road trip with the guys? Our first stop is a little bar in Caliente, Nevada called Wrights. It's also the first time we try some of our new songs in public. When they talk about small towns in Nevada, Caliente must be at the top of the list because it has less than 2,000 people, and that's including tourists and pets. Still, a gig is a gig, no matter how big or how small. The bar had one little problem. The stage is so small, it either has my acoustic drum set on it or Ralphie's keyboards. Not both. Since Ralphie is the lead singer, I take the drums to the floor and I attempt to play softly. The crowd, all 12 people including the bartender, love us. I am steaming with sweat, but Diego is as cool as an iceberg. How does he do it? It's while we were putting our instruments away that I discover a text from my older brother, Scott. He got the serious brains in the family. He's currently an Army grunt because he wants them to pay for his college. Mom and Pop disapprove of my lifestyle, but they seriously disapprove of Scott joining the Army. They already had his life planned out. They wanted a doctor in the family, a daughter-in-law to boss around, and 3 grandchildren to show off to the neighbors. Instead, Scotty said, "I'm not getting married until I'm 30. Then he gave them the big finger and said, "See ya." Scotty and I don't like talking to our parents much. In fact, I've blocked them save for when I want to talk to them. My brother's text had arrived an hour ago while we were playing our first set. "I'm flying home in 2 weeks. Can't wait to see you." I checked the band's calendar. We would be playing at a bookstore in Salt Lake City, almost 7 hours from home. More important, I didn't need any more grief from Mom and Pop, so I wasn't going back to Vegas. I texted back, "Sorry, won't be in Nevada. Band's on tour." Wherever he was, or whatever he was doing, I didn't hear back till the next morning. "Details," he texted. "We're called the Jumping Pyros now," I texted. "Last time we spoke, weren't you the reincarnated hamsters?" he texted. I'm really bad about keeping in touch, aren't I? Anyway, we'll be playing in Salt Lake when you arrive. Check out our videos on our website. I texted and sent a link to our YouTube account. "I'll watch them later. Mom and Pops are nuclear. Did you know they brought Grandpa to your apartment to talk you out of being in a band, but you were gone? Recommend you avoid Vegas for the next decade. What's Mom and Pop so mad about?" Oh, that's right. Scott had left for the Army when I told my parents I was gay. Trust Mom and Pop to keep that secret. I bet they haven't mentioned anything to my neighbors, or grandparents, or anybody in the family. Why is it that anybody on the LGBTQ spectrum has to come out over and over again? People who aren't gay think that all we have to do is mention it once and everybody will magically know. The truth is, I've had to come out to my friends, then my family, then my coworkers, then somebody at college who wanted to set me up with her cousin, and now my older brother. You'd think I wouldn't feel the panic, and that it would get easier, but that's a lie. How would my brother take it? Probably just like my family did. Badly. Here I go, coming out by text. Told Mom and Pop I was gay, and hated how they controlled my life. I told them that I would do what I wanted, not what they wanted. We had a fight. They called me a few things like selfish, brat, ungrateful, the usual. Now I'm on tour with the band. Just another day in the neighborhood, I texted. He didn't send anything back. If somebody had dropped a bombshell like that on me, what would I do? I wouldn't go silent. We drove to our next gig, rented a motel, and slept. The next morning, I still hadn't heard from my brother. Why is it so hard to win the game of life? Just before lunch, Scotty called me. You wouldn't believe what we had to do. Long story though. So you're gay, and everybody calls you Sin, he said. Best name ever. You mad I never told you I was gay? I said. No, he said. I should be surprised, but it explains a few things. Do you have a boyfriend? Long-term goal, I said. There was silence for a couple of moments, then he said, I saw 2 of your videos. I didn't know you could play the drums. Showed them to some of my friends. They were impressed. You have that rainbow thing in front of your drum. Are all of you gay? We're a little bit of everything, except straight, I said. Did you like our music? Honestly, I don't speak Korean, but it's not bad. A couple of guys here are into K-pop, and they really liked it. I take it Mom and Pop are not on board? He asked. Whenever we talk, they start screaming, I said, so we don't talk. Smart. Listen, he said, and sounded a little sad. You were 14 and I was 18. I got so fed up with Mom and Pop's attitude, I stayed away. I'm sorry I left you behind, but there was nothing I could do. I had to get away from my sanity. Now you're 21 and I'm 25. I feel like I've missed your life. You were there for the big stuff, and always let your kid brother talk your ear off. Do me a favor, I said. Name it, he said. Come to one of my concerts someday, I said. He chuckled a little. Done. I have a friend I want you to meet. He's finished his tour 2 weeks ago, and he lives in Nevada, and he is going crazy. He's a little older than you, but younger than me. You'll like him. Is my big brother setting me up on a blind date? I teased. You know it, Scott teased back. He was one of the people I sent the link to your videos. He thinks you're cute, and likes the way you play the drums. His name is Gabe Snow. After we hung up, I realized I should have asked my brother to send me a picture and a phone number. We had a 2-night gig at a bar in Eli, and it had a bunch of slot machines. This bar catered to a younger crowd, and they danced to some of our stuff. A bunch of girls screamed when we did a cover for Move by Taman, and when we did Ring Ding Dong by Shiny. We brought down the house. Fake Love by BTS made the girls go bonkers. Our next song, Popcorn, was a sentimental piece written by Mac. I suspect it was a special song for his husband, because Garrett blushed. Then he walked in. A couple years older than me, about my height, short tawny hair, dark eyes, and brass-rimmed glasses. He wore slim-fit faded jeans and a fitted brown blazer that hugged his body in all the right places, and a V-neck blue shirt that was a little too tight in all the sexy places. A gunmetal silver chain hung from his neck with a set of dog tags on it. 2 silver hoops hung from his right ear. The man ordered what looked like a whiskey and ginger ale with a slice of lime, said something to the bartender, and chuckled. Hey, Loverboy, head in the game, Mac whispered. Crap, I had missed my cue, and the band was waiting for me. I dove in, hoping nobody noticed. Our final song was a jazzy dance cover of Carnival by BAP. Finishing a concert is the most amazing feeling. The hyper-adrenaline rush of connecting with the crowd, the buzz of all the excitement. Wow. Plus, you are tired as hell and sweaty. Ever wonder why so many musicians seem to take their clothes off as they sing, or wear something light and cool and have water bottles ready? Not only are they dancing around, if the venue uses incandescent spotlights, which most do, the band members are hot and sweaty, like Vegas summer day kind of hot, literally. It didn't help that we all wore black. It's kind of our trademark, and it helps hide the sweat. Somebody's thirsty, Max said as he fixed a broken guitar string. He nodded toward the guy at the bar. I had taken apart the drum set and was putting the drums in their cases and bags when I glanced up. No doubt about it, the guy was cute. Why did butterflies flutter through my stomach? Go up and talk to him, Garrett said, helping to dismantle the amps and curl up the cables. You know you want to. I pulled the snare drum off its stand, collapsed to the stand, and began fitting it in its case. I'm not Nathaniel, I said, looking up. And I'm too tired and too sweaty, and I probably stink like a gym. As if on cue, Nathaniel had already packed up and was flirting with some of the K-pop girls. So you is what I smell? Diego said, and loosened his tie. I can't wait for a hot shower and a cool bed. Why not the reverse, Max said. Cool shower, hot bed. because some of us had to drive all day, Diego said. I chuckled, and then Garrett whispered, "Incoming." All four of us looked up. The man that I had been looking at earlier walked towards the band. He had a casual confidence, and up close a few details became apparent, like how his jeans were ironed, or how his jacket must have been freshly pressed at the dry cleaners, or how his stylish hair was trimmed military short, or how his arms filled out the sleeves of that jacket, or the steady deliberateness in the way he walked. Somebody was dressed to impress, and I couldn't help but be impressed. Can somebody say instant, heart-pounding, libido-pumping, love at first sight, lust? "Hi," he said. "I'm looking for Walt." What? Did I hear that right? I couldn't speak. Was I as nervous as Mac? "I'd help you, handsome stranger," Diego said, jumping off the stage to greet him. My best friend glanced at me with a very mischievous grin, took hold of the guy's arm, and led him to me. "But I've got to use the restroom. Maybe the dashing Mr. Sin should take over." Oh, crap. What had my best friend done to me? "Hi," the new guy said, quickly glancing at me and focusing on my eyes. "I'm Walt Sinaloa," I said, "but my friends call me Sin, and we're the Jumping Pyros." Why was I so nervous? I quickly introduced everybody. He smiled and said, "I know. I work with your brother, Scott. I'm Gabe Snow, and I'm sorry for showing up random like this, but I am so bored." "Bored?" Mac said. "Why?" "Army life," Gabe said. "Well, it's probably the same with any branch of the military. It's a constant go, 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 go. Something is happening all the time. The ads say that you do more before breakfast than most people do all day. They're not exaggerating. Maybe something needs to get fixed. Maybe it's training, drills, whatever it is. It's a faster pace than civilian life, and it happens 24/7. Your brother and I were part of an SMC, support maintenance company, and we had to keep every vehicle running. Sometimes the pace was insane. I used to feel sorry for the cooks because their life is even faster than ours. Imagine having to prepare 3 meals a day for everybody on base. Do you know how many potatoes you'd have to peel? At least 11,000 per day, maybe more. By the way, I love your music. Am I rambling? Mac and Garrett both smiled at me. Ralphie gave me a subtle smirk and mouthed, "You're on your own, loverboy." Nathaniel was off flirting with some guys. Wasn't it a couple of girls a minute ago? "So, you know my brother?" I asked. "Why don't you grab a chair while I put my drums away and tell me about him?" Gabe grabbed a chair and we began talking. It might have started with swapping stories about my brother, but it evolved from there. He helped me take the equipment out to the van and load it. Then we sat in the bar and talked until closing. He told me about how he joined the Army, about the base he had served on, about basic training. "I'm living at home now, but I'm looking for my own place," he said. I told him about my freaky family, about the band, about how all of us met. Was sitting at a bar talking until closing a date? Diego thought so. Ralphie said we looked cute together. Gabe and I had arranged to meet for lunch at Hermano's, a local fast food taco place, the next day. Before he left, we exchanged numbers. About 8 the next morning, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. The message was simple, and from my father. "Your brother sent us the link. You and your little friends have made videos and you each have a vlog. You go by Sin and you're telling the world you're gay. You and your friends talk about Arrow, Ace, Andro, Demi, Pan, Frey. Your mother and I have never even heard of the things you're talking about. Are you making them up? Do you know how embarrassed we are? I demand you take those videos down before anybody sees them. Come home, go back to school, and get a real job." I sent a text. "Thanks for enjoying our videos. Appreciate it. Posting more soon." Oddly, my phone stayed silent for the rest of the day. I met Gabe for lunch about noon. He didn't come alone. A 5-year-old child came with him. The kid was carrying a sketchbook and a pencil pack. Gabe and I hugged, and then he gave me an odd, almost scared look. He blew a breath out, and then held it again before speaking. "Sin, I don't want there to be any surprises. I think we hit it off last night, and I would like to keep seeing you. But I come as a packaged deal. I hope this isn't a deal breaker, but I want to introduce you to my son, Roger." "Hi," Roger quietly said. "Daddy says you play in a band." "Hi, I'm Sin, and I play drums. You?" I said. My mind went into overdrive, and it might have only been 2 seconds, but I had a lot of thoughts flash through my mind. Scott had sort of set me up on a blind date with a friend of his. Not that I minded. Gabe was an army man, single, a father, bi, or maybe pan, or gay, who had a kid. I've never dated anyone who had a child. Dating Gabe would be more of a commitment than some casual fling. Not that I've had many of those either. I'm not Nathaniel. What had Gabe just said? Packaged deal. We hit it off last night, so maybe I should give this a chance, at least for today. Mom wants me to play the piano, but I'm not very good. Are you famous? Roger asked, breaking into my thoughts. Not yet. I'll have to introduce you to Ralphie. He's our keyboard player, I said, giving what I hoped was a kind smile. I'm buying. Order whatever you want. Gabe, it sounds like you've got a story to tell, and I've got time to kill. We ordered burritos and nachos, and while Roger amused himself drawing in his sketchbook, Gabe told me his story. Army life is a commitment that lasts for years. April, my ex, decided she didn't want to wait. She didn't even tell me she was pregnant, and we never got married. So my first year in the Army, she broke up with me, had Roger, shacked up with a guy, and contacted me for child support. She hasn't married the other guy either. We sort of have split custody over Roger, but nothing is court approved. It's complicated. She has commitment issues? I asked. She definitely has issues, he said, but I haven't figured out what kind. Paternity test say anything interesting? I asked. Gabe nodded and said, I'm Dad. Roger hadn't looked up from his book. A quiet kid. I took the initiative. Roger, right? Can I see what you're drawing? He looked at his pop and then carefully handed the book over to me. Roger liked to draw people and planes and tanks, and a lot of pictures were a guy in a green uniform. His pop, no doubt. The book was almost full, front to back, both sides of every page, including inside the cover. You like drawing people a lot, I said. You're pretty good. I guess, he said. I took his pencil, and on the sketchbook's back cover I wrote our YouTube address. See if you like our videos, because Nathaniel, he plays guitar, is editing our new song using clips from the tour, but we need a decent thumbnail. You want to draw something for us? What's a thumbnail? Roger asked, shrugging his shoulders. I passed the book back to him. Think of it being like a miniature CD cover, except for videos. It usually has a picture, a title, whatever the artist thinks looks good, I said. Tell you what, make a drawing for the band and I'll give you $50. Gabe smiled and said, How about that, Roger? Your first commission. That makes you a professional. Lunch was fun, but then Gabe had to take Roger back to his mom, and then he had to report for his new job. It was obvious. This was the kind of relationship that wouldn't go anywhere. Gabe had too much on his plate. I had too much on my plate. We were two plates that only slightly passed in the night. Gabe and Roger seemed like nice people, so maybe I could do something nice for them. I didn't get many opportunities to do nice things anyway. Maybe I wanted to do something nice for Gabe because I wanted there to be something more for us. I wanted us to connect, but in my heart, I was afraid the relationship would end as soon as Jumping Pyros left town. That would be tomorrow. I would still do something nice. Stopping by a stationery store, I picked up a nice sketchbook and a set of colored pencils. The best part of this trip was finally telling my brother about me being gay and finding out that it didn't matter. Gabe and I didn't have time to make this any kind of relationship. Part of me wanted to see where we could go. But, save for a one-night stand, this wouldn't go anywhere. That night, word of mouth had spread, and twice the number of people had arrived at the bar. About halfway through our performance, we were performing a cover for one of Monster X's songs. And guess who showed up? By the bar, Mac whispered. I looked over and almost lost my cue again. Gabe wore a loose-fitting Japanese print shirt, slacks that hugged him in all the naughty places, and a mischievous smile. We performed our songs, and we sang, and the audience grooved, danced, swayed, sang with us. Gabe also. Once we finished, the bartender brought me a tequila sour and said, "Compliments of the gentleman near the bar." I looked over and gave Gabe a smile. The crowd was dispersing, and he walked over to me, carrying his own tequila sour. "Need some help?" he asked. Diego gave me a wicked smile and said, "Of course Sin does. Just don't keep him up past his bedtime. We have a long drive tomorrow morning." With Gabe's help, it didn't take long to pack the drums away, and our shy guy, Mac, shocked me when he said, "Make sure you do something your parents would regret." Once everything was packed, we finished our drinks, and in the late night air, we went talking and walking until we found an all-night diner. Then we were talking and eating. Sometime after the clock said it was way too late, we were walking back to his car when he said, "I had a lot of fun." "So did I whispered. The cool night air, the warmth of our bodies, the soft caress of his breath. We kissed, then tragically, chastely, said goodnight. Before we parted, I gave him the gift for Roger. His smile was tender and gentle. Back at the motel, I lay awake thinking about the night. We hadn't done anything but talk. No fireworks, no gymnastics, no intensity. Only a very remarkable kiss that lingered in both my mind and on my lips. One-night stands are not my style. Intimacy, at least for me, requires some kind of a connection that takes longer to form than one date. It can't be rushed. I'm definitely not Frey. Diego would be disappointed that nothing happened, but I wasn't. Something inside me was at peace. I woke early the next morning, imagining I still tasted the tequila from his lips and the subtle taste of lemon, and I imagined I still smelled the scent of his cologne about my clothes, the warmth of his body as he held me. No doubt I would never see him again, but why couldn't I forget him? We'd only shared a kiss, a conversation, a fleeting connection. 6 a.m. I stared at my phone, at his number. Was it too early to call him? Should I? He had a kid to get ready for school, so it would be a bad time. Besides, I needed my sleep. He needed to sleep. Wait, it was Sunday. I could call him. But I didn't call him. I stared at the ceiling, lightly drowsing, and remembering last night. Tequila sour had just become my favorite drink. By 8, we had the van packed, checked out of the motel, and our suitcases were in Garrett's back seat, and we were having breakfast at a local Greasy Spoon, the Silver Mine Cafe, a definite tourist trap selling cheap coffee and cheaper souvenirs. I had just ordered a coffee with 2 creams and 1 sugar, and the breakfast plate with 2 fried eggs and bacon, hash browns, and a bowl of chili with some tortillas. When my phone buzzed, an incoming text from Gabe. "What time do you leave?" As soon as we finished eating, I texted back, "We're at the Silver Mine Cafe. Save us a seat. I have a surprise. Order for us. Roger and I will have what you're having. Be there in 5. Nathaniel winked at me and whispered, "Do you want a private booth?" A few minutes later, Gabe and Roger entered the diner. Gabe was smiling, but Roger was smiling even more. He held his sketchbook like he held a trophy. I introduced them to the guys, and we squeezed together around the table. "Roger has something he wants to show you," Gabe said. "Sin," Roger said in the most professional voice a 5-year-old could muster. "I watched all your videos, but Daddy said I needed to be older to see the vlogs, and were you serious about me making a design for your new video?" I tried to sound as serious as Roger when I said, "When it comes to the band, I'm always serious." Diego was the one who answered, because he smiled and said, "If we like it, Nathaniel can work on it today while we're driving. Show us your masterpiece." Roger suddenly became shy. The waitress returned with our plates and refilled our coffees. She brought a root beer for Roger before moving to another table. "Believe it or not," Gabe said, "Roger was still up when I got home. He worked on this half the night. Grandma was a little bit mad when she found out, Roger said. You get in trouble? Ralphie asked. He's got a permanent bedtime now of 8:30 on weekdays and 9 on weekends, Gabe said. It's okay, Roger said. I have Grandpa's flashlight so I can keep drawing and Grandma will never know. A rebel in the making. Good for you, Diego said. I opened the sketchbook to the last pages. Each member had their own picture, with as much energy and passion as a 5-year-old kid could put into it. I had my drums and red coat, and Mac had his guitar, and Diego was in his skinny suit and skinny tie, and Garrett was busy lifting the amps with his oversized muscles, and Ralphie sung his heart out. I turned the last page, and every one of us was delighted. A 2-page spread of the band, with instruments and floating music notes. Best $50 I ever spent, I said, and slid the 50 across the table. Breakfast was fun, and Roger was excited. But duty called. We had to be on the road. Gabe had gone to the restroom, and the others had gone ahead to pay their bill, leaving me and Roger alone for a few seconds. He gave me a serious look and said, "Does Daddy like you?" "Why's that?" I asked. "He smiled all the way here," Roger said. "Did he now?" I commented, trying to keep from smiling. I gave him a little smile and let him talk. "Daddy watched the videos with me, and," Roger started to say. "Guilty. I did," Gabe interrupted, standing next to the seat his son was in. "We've got to get somebody to his mom's house before she gets mad, and somebody else needs to get on the road." After I paid my bill, we wandered to the parking lot. The guys were climbing into the van, or Garrett's car, and Roger went on ahead to his dad's car. For a second, Gabe and I were alone. He took my hand and asked, "I know you're on the road a lot, and I'm a father. I guess we both have other responsibilities. But can I ask you something?" "What's that?" I asked. "I really like you, Sin," he said. "I know I'm out of practice, and I'm a couple of years older, and I have a son. But I want to see you again. Is that okay? Maybe we could meet up somewhere and talk, or go on a real date if you come by, or I can drive down to Vegas or Dead Man's Butte, or head over to a future concert." For an answer, I gently kissed him and whispered, "I'd like that." "Call me later," he said. We both smiled, and this time it was a serious kiss. Until a horn honked. Diego and his big old van with Jumping Pyros painted on the side pulled up next to us. His grin was the size of the Grand Canyon. "Want a ride, loverboy?" I gave Gabe a hurried kiss, ran to the van's passenger side door, and jumped in. To be continued in the next Jumping Pyros adventure. Thank you for joining me, everybody. I appreciate it. I'm Gio, and I hope all of you have a great week. We'll see you next Wednesday. Peace.